Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame fam, Fantasy Endgame baseball players. It's Wednesday. It's basically midweek, and we're here to get you caught up on the week that has happened so far and get you ready for the rest of the week to help you win those matchups. Pierre, how's your week going so far for fantasy?
It's all right. I mean, it's interesting because every week is totally different. You would think, I know we say this all the time, it's not a weekly game like football, but yet in the weekly leagues you're in, you feel like you don't know what's what. Like it's supposed to be not that different, and yet every week it's like, how is my team that just crushed like 10-2 last week all of a sudden down 2-10? It's like
Yep.
you really never know. Things change quicker than people expect in baseball. And the guy that everybody was all over and everyone was fighting to pick up gets dropped a week later. It's just funny how that goes. So, I mean, look, that's what makes it tough. You don't know exactly when you buy in, when you don't. And, if I had all the answers perfectly down, I would definitely share them. But we try the best we can, and here we go again. We got more call-ups. We got more guys coming back, and I know we got questions about these guys already. But I mean, look, it doesn't always play out the way we think. But that's, as I always say, that's what makes it fun.
It is what makes it fun. Sometimes frustrating, but also fun. Speaking of you never know, we do have a couple rookies called up. I know you added one of them in our league. That's Robert Hassel III. Interesting baseball name, and a Marcelo Mayer. So obviously you're somewhat in on Hassel. What about Mayer? How are you feeling about these rookies that just got called up?
So Mayer, and again, sometimes we nail the timing and sometimes we don't. There was some buzz. It's not like I pulled this out of thin air, but on Beat the Breakout, we always try to stash these guys before they get called up. And I talked about Mayer, and the very next day, actually, probably when the video published, it was the same day. I said, look, this is the time, stash him now. And he got the call. It was actually a little earlier than I expected. I thought maybe they'd give a week or two, maybe, but no, here he is. I mean, everybody who knows anything about prospects has heard of Marcelo Mayer for years. So very exciting. I mean, you got to be excited just to see what he can do. It's not Roman Anthony, but I guess the next best thing. The question is, where are they going to play him? What does this mean? Like the domino effect, because he's a shortstop. And they got Trevor Story, who looked like a league winner for like 3 weeks, and now he's looking maybe droppable. He's been dropped in a lot of leagues. I'm not writing him off completely, because really the only issue with Story has been dude cannot stay healthy. He's still healthy. He's just cold, but I don't think that he's just toast. You know what I mean? So I don't want this to be a Jordan Lawler situation where he comes up, he plays like twice a week and does nothing. I mean, Jordan Lawler, talk about a big bust. I mean, I don't want to say he's a bust, but talk about for fantasy purposes, picking him up. I mean, a lot of nothing. So I hope it's not the same situation, but very interested to see what he does. And, a lot of you out there go and stash him and see. I didn't pick him up because I couldn't, because in every single league I'm in, he was already added. That's right. He was already added 24 hours after he got called up. But Hassel was not in every league, so at least I stashed him in ours.
You did stash Hassel. I know you stashed him in our league. All right, what about pitchers? Not rookies. Certainly not rookies, but a couple vets coming back, some big name vets, Clayton Kershaw and Spencer Strider. I kind of feel like I know your take on Clayton Kershaw coming back, but you can remind the folks at home who may not know. And then what about Spencer Strider?
Yeah, I mean, like all our regular viewers here, you already know, but for those tuning in for the first time, or maybe weren't here last week or two, this is why I had zero interest in Clayton Kershaw. And it's not just, he got to knock the rust off, and, this was his first. This is 2025 Clayton Kershaw. His velocity is down. He's not the same pitcher. Let's just admit it. Would love to see prime Hall of Fame version of Clayton Kershaw. If you want that, you're going to have to go and rewatch some old tape, right? Like play the highlights from a few years ago. Look, it's not coming back, and it's not going to come back. And even if he gets that command, spot on, the K rate will not be nearly the same. Like we know that. is he even going to go far enough, into games to get a win, much less a quality start? I don't think so. It just, no. My interest in Clayton Kershaw is pretty close to zero. Spencer Strider, and I know we got questions about him. Look, this is different. This is a case of a guy who is in his prime. He is going to be knocking some rust off, right? He's missed a lot of time, so that's understandable. So I'm not worried about him. I almost threw him out on the buy low video that came out today. I said, let's wait and see. It's probably not that many people. If you've been stashing Strider, you're not ready to ditch him, right? I mean, he just came back. So I bet you if he has another not even great start, like he didn't get pounded, right? He just didn't look great. If he has another not so great start next time, you know what people will do? They're going to panic, right? They're going to be ready to give up on him. So let's see what happens here.
All right, there you go. I think that's about it as far as the big news. I'm sure there's plenty more, and I'm not sure. I see you guys already have a ton of questions, so let's not delay anymore. And as always, a reminder, if you're impatient and you want to jump to the front of the line and get your question answered right away, you can drop that super chat. Or if you just want to say thank you for the hard work, drop that super chat. Of course, not necessary. We will answer as many questions as we can for about the next 50-ish minutes here up until the hour. And let's start with Eddie Buzz, who's always on the show. What's up, Eddie? Hello, Eddie. Do you expect the Christian Walker and Christian Yelich, to bounce back this season, or are you concerned? Also, he was offered Carlos Rodon for Christian Walker. Do you take that?
Before the season, I would have said no. I mean, I think it's fair, right? It's fair trade, but I probably would have said no. And now I'm leaning towards yes, because really with Rodon, I mean, his only issue has been staying healthy as well. And he looks pretty good. I mean, he's looking like the best version of himself. And when he's on, he's on. I mean, this could be a guy who's maybe not quite ace status, but like a tier below, like what he is from the Yankees, like your number 2 starting pitcher. Good ratios. He definitely gets strikeouts and obviously going to get you wins. So I'm not out on Walker. I haven't given up on him this season, but if you can get Rodon for him, I would do it. Like, I think Walker will get better. But I also don't expect him to necessarily put up numbers like he has the last couple of years. And this is why I've, been saying Christian Walker wasn't my favorite draft pick, because, when sluggers age, it's a little more gracefully than speedsters, but he's still aging, and I don't know that we're going to see necessarily even 30 home runs this year. So I would take Rodon. Yelich, is kind of like, what I've said about Brian Reynolds to a lesser extent. He'll still give you a little bit of everything, but he's not getting you a lot of everything like he used to, right? He used to be a 5-category stud. Now he's like a 5-category, I don't know, what would be a step below that? Like, it's okay, decent option, but his best years are definitely behind him.
Yeah, I liked Rodon. I was hoping I could get him late in our draft, but I got sniped on Rodon. I liked him. All right, DJ Storm, what's up? Who would be the better player rest of the season, Christian Campbell or Jake Cronenworth? He's got to get rid of Simeon. Had enough of Simeon.
Yes, I could have got rid of Simeon like a month ago and would have been no difference. So, look, this is different here. This is what type of player would you like? You're saying better for what? Cronenworth, floor, Campbell, ceiling. You want, safe. You want a guy who will get you counting stats, right? He'll definitely get you RBIs. He'll score some runs, get you some power. That's Cronenworth, right? I think, it's fair to say he kind of a set and forget. I mean, like, you were pretty happy with Cronenworth last year. You kept him in your lineup pretty much all year, didn't you?
Yeah, he was good for about 3/4 of the year. He kind of fell off towards the end, but
true. But see, the good thing is he missed almost the first quarter of this season, so he's already had his bad quarter.
There you go.
Campbell will get you, probably, assuming, all goes well as a rookie, probably a little bit more in terms of home runs, definitely more in steals. The batting average is a little bit more in question. Look, I think you're probably fine with both or either, I should say. It's just really going to be a matter of what happens in the next week or two with Campbell. Are they going to move him to first? Is he going to be every day still at second base? You know what I mean? There's a lot more variables here. So if you are risk averse, which there's nothing wrong with that, you go Cronenworth. You want to shoot for that upside and hope for a surge, then you can go Campbell. But yes, you should definitely get rid of Simeon.
All right, there you go. Thank you. As always, DJ Storm. All right, Mr. Waking Up wants to know, would you make this trade? Matt Chapman and Nick Lodolo for Luis Castillo. He's already got Matt Shaw and Max Muncy at third base in a points league.
I like the thought process. I'm fine dealing Chapman and Lodolo for a pitcher, but I would aim a little higher than Castillo. I know he's been pretty solid this year, but again, I'm worrying that Castillo isn't going to be quite the same as he used to be. He's slightly trending downward. It's not a cliff like, jumping off of it, but I think I would rather get a slightly better pitcher than Castillo. And look, I said this today. If you want to try to buy low, I mean, again, you don't know, but Spencer Schwellenbach, all of a sudden, people are worried about him. I would rather have him than Castillo, and I think that's pretty comparable in terms of draft value preseason, in terms of performance so far this season. So I'd rather have somebody, not just because he's younger, but also somebody I feel just has more upside rest of the season. So I like your thought process. It's just Castillo himself isn't necessarily my favorite target. Try to get somebody similar. I actually might even prefer like a Clay Holmes.
All right, there you go. Thank you as always. All right, Anthony, always on here. He was on the football stream, but didn't get in the draft, unfortunately. But he promised he'll be in the mock draft tomorrow. All right, he's saying Max Meyer got a quality start against the Cubs today, but only 4 Ks. Is he back compared to how he looked earlier in the season? And do you think Cade Horton should have pitched better against the Marlins? I'll say this about the Marlins: they're actually hitting the ball right now. They rocked my boy Ben Brown as well. So maybe the Marlins aren't this easy stream we think they are. But what do you think here? Is Max Meyer back?
He's getting there. And look, I keep saying I haven't given up on Meyer, and I'm still not giving up on him. I will admit I did have to drop him in one league, but I still have held on to him in many other leagues, which tells you how much Max Meyer I already got. Yeah, I think he's going to get back. He was never completely gone. He had some wild bouts, and that's going to happen. You got to remember, we're basically treating this guy, like he's a rookie, because even though he was around last year, he barely pitched. This is normal. It's part of the process. So would love to see more Ks, but you got to remember, the Cubs are a top 3 offense in the majors. Just the fact that he was able to do what he did, I think, is impressive enough. So, yeah, I think he will get back.
All right. And then Michael wants to know, are you buying into this Isaac Paredes hot streak? 2 home runs today.
I am. Another guy I didn't want to give up on. Again, he's a pull hitter, a power hitter. He should play better in Houston than he did in either Tampa or Chicago. I think it's legit. And look, when a guy, especially a power hitter, starts to heat up, you put him in your lineup and you don't take him out until he cools off. So, yeah, it's legit. I mean, he's done this before.
All right. And then Doyle saying, what would you do when Buxton comes off the IL, or who would you cut? He could cut either Stowers, Ben Rice, Buxton, or Ian Happ. It's a category head-to-head league, 10-team. Who are you cutting?
All right. So a 10-teamer, I get why you have to make this decision. I think Happ is fine, and it is a category league, so I'll say it would be Happ I would cut. But what I would still try to do, again, when he comes off the IL and he's back to playing every day, I'm still selling high on Buxton, because I know, this was just a fluky thing. Just like every other injury he's ever had in his career, which happens every year, multiple times a year. It's always something different. It's always, it was base running. He was diving. It's always something, and it will always be something. So I'm still selling Buxton if I can. I like 10-teamer. I'm not sure exactly how much you could get for him, but also if you have this dilemma, I mean, if he's coming off the IL soon, try to package 2 of these players. You could try that right now. I don't mind. I like Stowers, but it's 10-teamer. I don't mind putting Buxton plus Stowers for maybe a pitcher or whatever else, the other team that might need outfielders would be willing to do.
All right. Thank you, Doyle. And we got our first super chat from Scott. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. He's in a head-to-head 5x5 on base percentage league. So his Kyle Schwarber and Jordan Romano, so his Phillies, for his league mates Dodgers, Freddie Freeman and Tommy Edman. Who do you want? You want the Phillies? You want the Phillies slugger and closer, or the Dodgers slugger and I don't know what you consider Tommy Edman?
Edman, the Swiss Army knife, I guess.
Yeah.
This is tough. I do think roster construction has something to do with it because, in OBP, that pretty much evens out Schwarber and Freeman, right? Because you don't have to worry about batting average. So those guys are almost comparable there. You're saying you got Rice. I like Rice, even in OBP league. I think that's fine. You could roll with him. But if you're getting Freeman, then you don't have to. You got Tucker and Jordan. Again, so you don't. It's like here's the thing. Okay, Schwarber, Freeman, both studs, both pretty comparable in this format. I'm not really wanting to trade for Edman or Romano either way, but if I had to pick, I would rather have Edman. So I think I'm okay with this deal. Yeah, you can do this.
All right. Thank you for that, Scott. Appreciate it. And then you touched on this in the beginning, but James might have missed it. Want to give him the quick cliff notes on how much time you're giving Spencer Strider?
How much time to hold on to him? I mean, don't consider dropping him. I mean, he'd have to look really bad for a sustained period of time to consider dropping him. So you keep him. We've got to give him a pretty long leash. Remember, this was the best pitcher in the majors before he got hurt. Even if, let's say, okay, we're not getting vintage Strider. I mean, 80% of Spencer Strider is still better than 80% of all the pitchers out there. So you do not drop him at all unless something just goes really, really wrong. The good sign is that even though he wasn't completely on point, the velocity is still good, didn't have any setbacks. And this last injury, I mean, it was kind of a result of the fact that he had missed so much time. He came back, tweaked something. That's just normal. It wasn't the elbow. So I'm not worried about Spencer Strider. My panic meter on him is like a 2 right now. So just got to be patient.
All right. Be patient, James. All right. Carl wants to know, in a 16-team weekly head-to-head points league, he traded Chris Sale and Gavin Sheets for Paul Goldsmith and Tanner Bibby. What are your thoughts?
Man, 16-teamer. That's a good deep league, points league. Okay, so the fact that it's a points league, I think makes this okay. I would probably, in a vacuum, prefer the Sale side, but I can see Goldie maybe having a little more long-term value in a points league over Sheets. And I guess it's offset a little bit with the pitchers. I mean, I still think there's a gap, decent gap between Sale and Bibby, but it's okay.
Is it Bibby? It's not Bibby, it's Bibby.
I know. I'm gonna have to wrap my head around that. I looked it up because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I think it is Bibby, which sounds weird, doesn't it? I know. It doesn't even look correct.
No. Okay. That's how you pronounce it. That's how you pronounce it. All right. Jeff wants to know. All right. If you were planning to trade league winner Pete Crow Armstrong, is this the kind of return you would want? PCA and Andrew Abbott for Wyatt Langford, Corbin Burns, and O'Neill Cruz. Is that enough upside?
Yes, that would be enough because I know Langford hasn't been. I mean, look, let's face it. Pete Crow Armstrong has been what everyone thought and wanted Wyatt Langford to be. This is what we expected from Langford, right? Having this many home runs and maybe not the steals, but everything else. But Wyatt Langford still has a ton of upside. I mean, he really should be maybe outperforming PCA. I'm not saying it's going to switch, but still, that's that's a good return with O'Neal Cruz too. And I definitely would rather have Burns than Abbott rest of the season. So yeah, I think that's enough.
All right, that's enough. And then we got Jacob wants to know, can he drop Michael Harris as his outfielder number 4? Can he just flat out drop Michael Harris? Obviously, we don't know league size or anything, but I'm going to assume a shallow league.
Yeah, well, if he's your 4th outfielder, then obviously, you're not depending on him. Can't be too deep. I mean, like that's the type of player you don't necessarily want to drop. I mean, my question, of course, would be if you're dropping him, who are you picking up instead, or who else do you have on your roster? Look, there's nothing as far as Harris's stats that if you had no idea, if you did the blind resume and you just look at the numbers, you'd be like, this guy doesn't belong on a fantasy roster. So I can't say no. If he's your 4th outfielder, yeah, I'm going to say go ahead and drop him.
All right. And then we got Ryan. What's up, Ryan? Who do you like? Which catcher you like, Ivan Herrera or Hunter Goodman?
Close call. Both good. This is another one where preseason, I would say Goodman has the higher upside because of power output. Maybe Herrera is legit. Maybe he's turning into a power hitter, which he had never been before. But, I like the fact that he has sustained to some extent his power, but also, the Cardinals are doing the smart thing. They're DHing him, because of the injuries. They're not even putting him behind the plate that much anymore. So that means he's getting regular at bats. That means it mitigates the injury risk. And the Cardinals are actually hitting. So you know what? I'm going to go to the Herrera side.
All right. And then he wants to know, are you worried about Hunter Brown after getting rocked by the Rays today? Or was this just a bad outing? One of those games?
No. Everybody has one of those games. I mean, was he really going to go the entire season with the leading, ERA of 1 point something? I mean, he was bound. How long was it going to be until he had this game? Like, of course it was going to happen, which, by the way, I hate to say, Andrew Abbott, how much longer? Maybe another week or two before he has one of those games? Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. All right, Chris Wiseman, what's up? Wants to know, do we have an ETA on Mizrachi, Bubba Chandler, Jack Caglianone, Roman who's that? Not Roman. Yeah, Roman Anthony.
Yeah, I'm assuming Roman Anthony. All right.
We have ETAs on these guys, I guess, coming back from injury.
Well, we have guesstimates. All right, guesstimates here. If you had to ask me, and like to some extent, when I talk about these players as stashes, right, for trying to beat the breakout, I try to kind of prioritize an order where I think they were going to get called up, plus their upside. So if I had to guess, Bubba should be first. I mean, it really should be any day now. I'm almost a little surprised he hasn't gotten a call yet. Bubba, ASAP. Anthony should be next, and I'm guessing we're going to see him in June sometime. Now, Mizrachi is a little trickier, and I purposely has held off talking about him again because, he's ready. He's dominating AAA, but there are some questions as to his role in the majors. Remember, last year they moved him to the bullpen, number one, to mitigate the injury risk, but number two, because that's where he's more effective, because even though he basically looks like the next Randy Johnson, you got to remember the first several years of Randy Johnson's career, he got the nickname Wild Thing for a reason. He was walking as many batters as he was striking out. That doesn't play in the majors. So I don't think we can just assume he's going to jump into the rotation. As much as the Brewers need pitching, you need a pitcher who's not going to walk every other batter, right? You need a guy who's ready. So I'm going to say Mizrachi's going to be a little bit later, maybe like July. And then with Jack Caglianone, I mean, he just got moved up to AAA. They're going to be patient with him. I think that's more like August.
All right. Thank you for that. Let's do a couple quickies from Ryan. AJ Smith-Shawver or Mackenzie Gore? I assume rest of the season.
Yeah, I got to go with Gore. The strikeout upside is just massive.
And are you selling Kevin Gausman?
Well, I mean, if someone's buying, it's a bad time to sell. You're kind of selling low. I mean, the time to sell Gaussman was 3 weeks ago. I'm not giving up on Gaussman though. I mean, look, he's had a rough stretch, but he was mostly good up until, well, he was really good up until May. So I'm not giving up on him. I don't know what you get right now if you're selling though.
All right. And then back to back, always here. Welcome back. What do we do with Haesung Kim? Not getting the playing time we'd like.
Yeah, not getting the playing time that we would like for sure. I especially would like it because I picked him up in some leagues and he is going to still play though. So I would stash if you have the room. When he's playing, he's being productive, and that's the main thing, you know. So look, if you can't afford to keep him on your bench, then I guess you don't have to hold him, but I really like to. And what's nice too is he qualifies at second and short. It's a little harder to find help there. So I don't want to rely on him to be my everyday starter because he's not for the Dodgers. But hold if you can afford to.
All right. Thank you for that. And then Jack Little wants to know, do you think I don't think I think it's Abner Uribe, right? Is a good pickup for hold saves, or would you rather have Jordan Romano? He had Jose Alvarado before he went to, well, actually, you had Jose Alvarado while he was using the needle, actually. So
Right.
maybe all the Jose Alvarado stats should be like everybody should lose those stats off their fantasy team.
That's actually, I wonder, that's a good idea, right? You get penalized for having them.
You didn't deserve those saves.
They were illegal.
He was on the sauce.
If it's a hold and save league or save and hold league, I'm going Uribe. And again, accuse me of ageism, even though I'm way older than all these players. Look, I like Uribe. He's got the strikeout stuff. He doesn't have the injury history here. And honestly, in a hold save league, I prefer to stack up on the holds than the saves because these guys who can come in the 7th and 8th and get you a hold versus a guy who has to pitch in the 9th in that situation to get the save, which is not only less common, but also higher risk, less chance of them kind of falling off. So I'm going to go Uribe.
All right, Uribe it is. All right, a lot of Matt Shaw talk. Jacob wants to know who you like, Matt Shaw or Jackson Holiday.
And I don't know who was. Someone asked this exact same question, I think, in the Discord. I don't think it was him. It was somebody else. I mean, I like them both. I mean, you're having to pick one to roster. I love Shaw. I loved him before the season, and I love that not only he got called up already, he's producing. Like, this is it. This is what we were hoping for, right? But Jackson Holiday has actually been really good as of late. So, like, I don't think I can say Shaw yet.
All right. Holiday for now. Holiday for now. All right. Blair wants to know if you had Ben Rice and Jack Flaherty, what starting pitcher would you be looking to get in it? I assume in a 2-for-1 trade.
Rice and Flaherty. Well, realistically, I don't think that's going to get you a haul because, Flaherty's been a little disappointing this year. And I know, like, I like Rice, and Rice has been productive. He's not getting you a lot in terms of trade value because he doesn't have, that history of production. He doesn't have the name value. A lot of people don't even own Ben Rice in leagues. He's kind of slept on. I feel like he's undervalued. So it's kind of a tough sell, if you know what I mean. Both of these guys. So you're going to have to keep your expectations realistic. You're going to get like a mid-rotation arm, somebody who's been good, not great. And so maybe even try to buy low on a struggling pitcher. I'm not saying you have to settle for injured Aaron Nola or anything like that, but let's see. What are some names? I'm going to try to see something.
What about Brandon Pfaadt coming off a bad outing?
Yeah, Pfaadt might be a decent one. you might be able to aim a little higher. Kind of missed the window on Corbin Burns, unfortunately. I think I would be okay. Like I like Christopher Sanchez. I feel like you could get him. You might not think that's enough, but again, I just don't feel like you're getting anything outstanding for that duo. You know, the buy low window has closed on guys like Sale and Cease a couple of weeks ago. Um, I think honestly, your best bet might be try to get one of these pitchers who's on IL and going to come back if you can afford to wait a week or so. So maybe an Imanaga, you know what I mean?
All right. Thank you for that. And then Joseph wants to know, are you dropping Wilyer Abreu for either Geraldo Perdomo or Matt Shaw? Matt Shaw is the fish of the day, I guess.
The hot topic. Yeah.
Definitely the hot topic right now.
So I'm guessing more shallow league, if all these guys are just available or droppable, you shouldn't have to drop Abreu. I would see, go fishing, see if you can catch something, sell him for something. I've got to think somebody's going to want Abreu. He's off to a great start. If Perdomo and Shaw are just out there on waivers, this has got to be, again, a pretty small league. So, look, if you ask me rest of the season, who I prefer, I probably would take a chance on Shaw because I like his upside the best.
All right. Go with Shaw there. Try to trade Abreu, though. All right, Ryan, real quick. Shea Langeliers or Sal Perez? Which catcher?
Oh, man. Both pretty comparable. I'm still going to go Sal.
All right. Frank just wants to drop in and say, hey, Pierre, very impressed with your fantasy baseball acumen.
What's up, Frank?
What's up, Frank? All right, Uwe2K here. Any reason to worry about Caminero, Nick Kurtz, Augustin Ramirez? Would you drop any or all of them for Swanson or Berger or Hayes in a categories league?
Well, this is actually funny, this question, because in our league, someone just drop Junior Caminero. Yep. And I probably won't get him, but I'll just say it because I don't think it'll make a difference. I put in a claim to pick him up, and I'm dropping hopefully Jake Berger. So that tells you what my thought process is. Kurtz, same league. I've been holding on to Kurtz. He finally hit a home run yesterday. I'm going to try to be patient with Kurtz because I think he's one of those players that once he figures it out and kind of unlocks the power at the pro level, he could go bananas. That's my hope. But look, you should be worried about Caminero. I'm not dropping Caminero. And if he was dropped, I'm picking him up. Kurtz, yeah, okay, I get it, but I'm still giving him some more time. Ramirez, okay, you don't have to hold Ramirez, especially if it's a one catcher league. You got so many options these days. So would I drop any or all of them for Swanson or Berger or Hayes? I think you can drop Ramirez for Swanson.
All right, and speaking of Berger, he just hit his second home run. Is the Burgermeister back?
Well, I think he is coming back, but I still don't think he's got nearly the power upside of Junior Caminero. So I like Berger. Obviously, I've been big on Berger. Traded for Berger. Might regret that. But look, I think he is back. I mean, he's got a hitting streak too. He hit safely in like 6 straight, something like that. But I think he is back. I think he's coming back.
All right. Evan wants to know, is it worth buying Marcell Ozuna with Ronald Acuna coming back from the IL, like before he does it? Like, is this the time to buy?
Yes, this is a perfect time to buy, Evan, because Ozuna has seen his stats decline. His rolling window, the past, I think 50 or so plate appearances, it's getting low. It's going to come back up. There's nothing to worry about with Ozuna. He was so hot to start the season. It was bound to come down. And you know what happens? It goes down. It's going to come back up. And once Acuna comes back, that's only going to help the offense. So this is a perfect window to buy him. Almost talked about him, but I think I'm going to save him for next week.
All right. He'll be on next week's Buy Low. Jason Dropping in to say he traded Lawrence Butler, Andrew Abbott, and Jack Leiter for Jackson Merrill in a Dynasty 10-teamer. So now he has bench space. So which starting pitcher option would you add again in Dynasty 10-teamer? Hayden Birdsong, Max Meyer, or Noah Cameron?
All right. Well, all right, a lot to unpack here. So first of all, Jason, I think that's smart. This is a 10-teamer. It's, more shallow. Abbott and Leiter, you know, high upside pitching prospects, but give me the proven stud every time. And I definitely value Merrill more than Butler. So some people, I'm just saying, some people might look at this and be like, oh, you gave up all those guys just for one. I like this deal for you. And then who should you add? I actually have started to, for some reason, buy into Noah Cameron over those other guys. I like everything about him. Cameron would be my first option. I think I'm going to go Meyer second. But Birdsong is not too far behind. I mean, these are all good options.
All right, thank you. And then Frank wants to know, would you consider rostering Brett Beatty over Ryan McMahon?
I sympathize greatly with this, Frank, because I have Ryan McMahon and Brett Beatty in too many leagues, meaning I don't have anybody better. So I guess it's kind of depends, like, how do you like your punishment? Do you want it on a regular, consistent basis, or do you want, every other day? Brett Beatty does not play against lefties, and he either will hit 2 home runs or go 0 for 4. Like, there's not much in between. Ryan McMahon has been better, but it looks like he's already cooling off. Now, the one thing with McMahon is there is some talk that maybe he gets traded, which you think would be good for him if he goes to a contender or a good team, but then you're not sure if he's going to get everyday playing time. So if I had to pick, I would go McMahon still, but I know I wish we had better options.
All right, there you go. All right, Blonded wants to know, it's quite the avatar there. Is Jesus Luzardo a legit Cy Young contender, or is he just off to a hot start?
I've got to say it's legit. I mean, he's always had this kind of talent. I mean, it's just a mix of things, mainly injuries is part of it. Lack of maturity is part of it. Bad situation, meaning on bad teams. I mean, I feel like this is one of those years that really everything's just break right for him, and he puts it all together. So again, he might wind up being maybe even the best pitcher in Philadelphia, which is crazy. I mean, Zach Wheeler's probably still going to wind up with better stats, but yeah, Luzardo I think is legit.
All right, there we go. Uwe2K back with another question. Would you drop any of Colin Ray, Michael Liberatore, Trevor Malley, Tyler Gonsolin, or Michael Wacha for Logan Henderson, AJ Smith-Sharver, Griffin Canning, Hayden Birdsong, or Mizorowski?
Okay, so, and I know this is a shallow league, let's call it that. You can drop Ray. I would drop Ray, and I'm not going to add. In your case, it's too soon for Mizorowski, too risky. Birdsong, not with these options. If it's a win league, not quality starts, I would drop Ray and Gonsolin for Henderson and Canning.
All right, there you go. Thank you. And then F wants to know, what's up, F? Jackson Churio or Nick Pivetta?
I mean, I've got to go Churio. And the only reason I didn't put him as a buy low, because I think last week I already said he was a buy low. All right, so now he's buy lower. Yeah, he's been cold. He's still one of the most talented, potentially one of the best players in all of fantasy. So don't be surprised. Remember last year, didn't get off to a great start either. In fact, he's been off to a much better start this season than he was last season. And he was crazy in the second half. So I'm buying low on Churio, and honestly, I'm selling high on Pivetta.
All right, and then Kyle with a dynasty question. What do you do? We talked about Marcus Semien, but what do you do with him in dynasty? Can't trade him for anything. He can't hit a baseball. Do you keep him on the bench, or do you drop him even in dynasty?
I mean, what is he going to give you next year that he didn't give you this year? Just a double migraine instead of a single. You know, you don't have to cut him. I mean, if you can afford to keep him on your bench, but at the same time, I think of it this way: could you pick up a young player who has that potential? You know, it's dynasty, so yeah, you're not going to necessarily be able to go out and pluck, Marcelo Mayer off the waivers because he's probably not out there. But I would rather take a chance on a guy who could wind up being on my roster next year than a guy that I probably still won't want on my roster next year. So I mean, if you want to wait, that's fine. I'm not saying he's absolutely, you have to cut him at no cost. You have to. No, but I would.
All right. And then Doyle wants to know about our Discord. Is it public? Yes, it is. Here is the link. I will drop it right now, Doyle. There you go. Check the chat. Should be there. All right. All right. Jordy wants to know, Will Warren, who had another fantastic outing, or Shane Bass, or Logan Henderson?
Oh. You're going to make it easy, and then you threw in the wrench. Yeah, I've got to now. I mean, look, talk about guys trending complete opposite directions. Baz was amazing, and now it looks like he's not even close to the same pitcher, which, again, it's confusing to me because there doesn't seem to be anything physically wrong with him. We haven't had signs of injury or soreness or anything, and the velocity is there. So he just isn't just not having control of the strike zone. That's enough reason to be worried. And Will Warren, I don't know, maybe he sucked Baz's powers from him. All of a sudden, he's not walking batters. Now all of a sudden, he isn't getting hit hard. So these guys have flip-flopped. You've got to go Warren. I think, I like Logan Henderson a lot, but the one thing with Warren is not just on a better team, but also he has been going longer into games, right? He's pitching deeper, more innings, but also his roster spot, his rotation spot is secure. He's been in the rotation from opening day. Logan Henderson should stay in the rotation, but you never know with the Brewers. Once Woodruff comes back, once Quintana comes back, I just feel more secure about Warren.
All right, Warren it is. And we got a couple super chats. We got a super chat from Jeff. Thank you. I'm trying to find, did you drop a question, Jeff? I don't see anything yet. If you want to drop your question, you obviously don't have to put it in a super chat since you already super chatted. Seeing if I can find it here real quick. I'm scrolling. This is much easier to find than on the football channel where you got to scroll.
Yeah.
Oh, we answered this one about the PCA trade. So I don't know if you have another one, Jeff. Okay, we answered that one. And then Anthony just wants to drop and say, having knowledgeable football and baseball channels must take tons of work. I can't take any credit for the baseball knowledge. I have lack of baseball knowledge. And then it says, Chris, don't sign me if you draft next to me tomorrow. I'll do my best. Anthony, but no promises. No promises. All right, Let's get back to where we are. Thank you for the super chats, guys. Appreciate that, Anthony. Of course. All right, where were we? Okay, right here. All right, Joseph has Wilson Contreras and Adley Rutschman. Would you drop one of them in a 10-teamer, Roto League?
No, because the good thing is you could actually play Contreras at first base if you need to. I'm assuming you got a pretty good first baseman in a 10-team league, but I don't think either one is really worth dropping. I mean, Contreras, after that ridiculously bad start, has been really good. Now, Rutschman has not been good, but I keep saying it. He's due for positive regression. I think he just homered. I don't think you can drop Rutschman. You just can't. You shouldn't. Not just like you can drop him, but you shouldn't. So, no, I don't want to drop either of those guys.
All right. And then Alley Boy wants to know, would you drop Jonathan Aranda? Would you add Jonathan Aranda and drop Yu Darvish? Sorry.
Well, interesting. You've had Yu Darvish this whole time. Now, Yu Darvish is worth a stash soon, but not yet. But there's a lot of risk here. If Aranda's out there, add him. I just talked about him as a guy who doesn't belong on waiver wires. being a little disrespected, honestly. So yes, do this.
All right, now let's help Salt to the earth here. He only plays on fan tracks. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there a better place to play fantasy baseball?
Yeah, and look, I got a couple leagues on Fantrax. It's like with any platform, there's pros and cons. The one thing I will say first to get the positive out there first is Fantrax has a really good deep player pool, like almost too deep. But if you play in a dynasty league, um, that might actually be your best option. It's a little convoluted at times. That's the only thing. Like I hate Fantrax the waiver system. It annoys me. You know, it's not simple and straightforward. So Fantrax is one of those. They're almost like there's almost too much there. Like I mean, Chris, you know MFL, my fantasy league for football.
Yeah.
It's like good lord, who decided that we needed 10,000 different links and you know drop down boxes? Like, no, it should not. Fantasy football should not be this complicated. It really doesn't need to be. Fantrax is sort of like that. You know, it's like there's almost too much. It's just not necessary. So if you're doing dynasty or custom leagues, Fantrax has a lot of great stuff, but I hate the waiver system. Uh, Honestly, I just use Yahoo most of the time. It still has everything you need. It's nice and clean. The interface, it has a pretty good player pool. The rules, you know, everything works. So I like Yahoo honestly, and NFBC if you want to do big stakes leagues and you know compete with the big dogs and try to win some money. But if you're just playing regular fantasy, that's Yahoo's still my go-to.
I like Yahoo. I've only played Fantrax on fantasy football, and I didn't like it at all. So,
No.
did not like it at all. All right. Pink Elephants. Would you drop Bubba Chandler or Matt McClain to pick up Yuri Perez and put him in his IL slot? He would then either move Westberg or Glasgow out of the IL slot, and then would then drop one of them for Matt Shaw. So this is like that hangover meme.
Yeah, it's like.
What do you think here?
We're counting cards here. I'm not going to drop either of those guys for Yuri because realistically, when Bubba gets the call, he's going to at some point. I'm definitely going to prefer him to Yuri Perez, even though Yuri has some experience. Who's probably going to go more innings? Who has less injury risk? I would not drop either of those players. I don't want to drop McClain. So the first question, the answer is no. I'm not going to do that. And then I guess that answers the second question because you don't need to do that. Am I going to drop one of those guys for Matt Shaw? I mean, I will say this: what you could, if this is even you know necessary anymore after all this, I think you could drop Glass now because we're not seeing him probably for another few weeks. Then who knows? You might just drop him now, and then you know if nobody rushes out to stash him on their IL, you might be able to even get him back in a couple of weeks. So I don't want to drop Westberg. I don't want to drop Bubba or McLean. If you could do this, I would probably try to drop Glass now, but I'm not even sure if you could do that.
All right, thank you for that. All right, F wants to know you got to drop one of Gavin Williams, Hayden Birdsong, Logan Henderson, Will Warren, or Ryan Weathers.
It's going to be one of the first two. Again, with Gavin Williams, it's just like the forever roller coaster. You know, he looks like an ace or he looks like a bum. There's not much in between, and good luck guessing when it's going to happen. So, I mean, obviously he looked good in his last start. That doesn't guarantee anything for his next start. Birdsong is good, less proven. The thing is, don't let the ratios fool you because he's been used in a long relief role. He's been doing like 2 innings at a time. You know, it's easy to kind of pile up those innings and look good. And then you have one start and you get lit up and all of a sudden you don't look so good. So I think you want to play it safer. You drop Williams. If not, you can drop Birdsong.
All right. Thank you for that, F, as always. All right, James, are you ready for your Aaron Nola question? Aaron Nola was dropped. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm stashing him. I mean, this is not somebody that is incapable of bouncing back. Not going to be gone for I just talked about Glass now. Glass now has a very long, extended history of injuries, serious injuries. And it didn't take very long for him to get hurt this year. Blake Snell, we're not going to see him for who knows how long. Aaron Nola, it's a hamstring. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. I think he'll be fine. So stash him.
All right, Jeff did drop that super chat. He has this question right here. Thanks to you, his team is stacked outside of second base. I mean, it's second base. All right, can you name a couple of obscure guys he can pick up off waivers in an ESPN 12-team league?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's second base. I mean, I don't know who you could even have that that could qualify as having a stacked team. So in ESPN, you should have some. I feel like ESPN, like nobody rosters anybody good. I don't know why. Every time I check the rostered rate, it's like, like Mookie Betts, 50% rostered. Like what? All right, obscure guys at second base that are actually worth rostering. Well, I'm going to throw Jonathan Aranda back in the mix. He qualifies. I don't know about ESPN, but I know in Yahoo he still qualifies at second base, and he's barely owned in ESPN. So I would make him my priority if he's out there. Gavin Lux, he could get you some points. Think he's there. Oh, Tyler Fitzgerald actually just came off the IL. He's still knocking some roast off too, but I like him. I think he's somebody who could help you right away. He should be available. I would think so. Those would probably be my first options. And then I don't know in ESPN if Connor Norby still qualifies at second. I mean, he does in Yahoo, but you could check on him.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Jeff. All right, Jordy wants to know Brandon Nimmo or Lars Nootbaar.
I'm gonna go Nimmo. Pretty similar overall production wise, but give the edge to Nimmo.
All right, and then Jack saying, would you drop Trevor Story and Jorge Polanco? Which, by the way, I always love it when these guys. The week I played Jorge Polanco, I think I played that team in our league that's not set in their lineup. I think Jorge Polanco hit like 4 home runs that week. He was like red hot against me, and I got crushed by them. Now he's droppable, but whatever. Fantasy, yeah, whatever. All right, would you drop Trevor Story and Jorge Polanco for Matt Shaw, of course, and Jake Burgermeister?
I'm not sure why you would drop Jorge Polanco when he's been one of the best second/third basemen in fantasy. Now, you could try to sell high on him. I would absolutely do that. In fact, that's what I talked about today. Don't drop him. Story, okay, yeah, I get dropping Story. He's been dropped in a lot of places, so I understand. You could drop Story to get Shaw. Yes, I would do that still. And again, I'm not giving up on Story, but I love Shaw. But don't drop Polanco.
All right.
Don't do that.
Don't drop Polanco. And you might want to rethink dropping Jake Burger. He just stole a base. 5 category Jake Burger.
Well, now we have to call him we have to call him the Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar, yes. The Jake Hamburglar. All right. It actually looks like we were caught up on the questions. Unless I missed something. Yeah. Caught up on the questions. We're coming up on the hour mark. Did I miss anything? Last minute questions here, guys.
Well, you know what? I have a question. Chris, you're in the league too. Let's throw this out there. We do have a team in our endgame league that I'm checking now. I just want to make sure, right? I don't want to jump the gun. Has not made any moves. Of course, no trades, and was last active basically after the draft. So I think it's time. We need a replacement. So
it's actually a really good team.
I know. Actually, I think I'm playing that team this week too. So anybody want in? I don't know how I'm going to pick, but let's just throw it out there. I'd rather have a competitive team in that league. So if you guys think you might be interested in taking over a team in the in-game league, it's head-to-head, typical by 5 categories, quality starts instead of wins. Let's do this. If you're on the Discord, throw a comment in the fantasy baseball channel. If you're not, Chris already dropped the link. Join the Discord and let me know. And I'll probably just do kind of like one of those random pickers because I don't know how else to pick fairly, but unless you have any creative ideas.
Nah, I think maybe first person that volunteers in the Discord. It's the Guys Accuracy team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this team has Aaron Judge.
Like say no more.
Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, Yamamoto. This team is ridiculous. This team is really good, actually.
Imagine, you know how lucky he has been that I look at his pitching staff that basically nobody has gotten hurt in his pitching staff because they're all good and they're all active. I mean,
he's got Dylan Cease. I mean, Bailey Oberfremmer. I mean, this team is really good.
Yeah,
team is really good.
Well,
I think I should take over that team since I should have had Aaron Judge, and then somebody else should take over my team.
Yeah. The good. You know, we should auction that team. All right, who's highest bidder? No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know, guys. Jump in the Discord if you're interested, and we'll find a way to pick.
All right, guys. Yeah. So I've dropped the link to Discord. Go on there. I don't know. Pierre will figure it out. Go to the fantasy baseball channel. Don't do it in the football channel. You will get ridiculed by all the football players, by all the fantasy football people who don't play baseball. Go to the fantasy baseball channel. Say you want the team, and I don't know. Pierre will figure out who gets the team because we need a full league. We need an active league. It's more fun. Yeah. All right, we appreciate everybody being on here. Don't forget, we will be back on Sunday for the 2-star streamers to wrap up the week, get you ready for the next week. And for those of you like Anthony who also play fantasy football, tomorrow we will be mock drafting a fantasy football draft. That's free to everybody. So check out the football channel tomorrow. And of course, don't forget, we got waiver wire video coming out on Friday. Always a great video. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for being on here. Always fun chatting with you. We'll see you back here on Sunday.